Alright, it looks like I am live. At least it looks like it. Gotta wait for confirmation from Mannix. Okay. Alright, so hello everyone, I am SuperViperT302. This is Pack and Roll Remix. If you've never heard of this game, which you probably haven't, but seriously you need to, this game is awesome. This is part of the Namco Museum Remix and Namco Museum Megamix compilations for the Wii. I'm playing it on Megamix, and it's an updated version of the 2005 DS game Pack and Roll. And this run is pretty epic. I ran this at the Pixels for Peace Spring 2019 event, and quite a few changes have been made to the run since then, most of which have come within the last 2 weeks. So, this will be pretty exciting for sure. So, let's just go ahead and get started. I assume I'm ready for a countdown. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with the countdown. So, 3, 2, 1, go. So your main movement tech in this game is this sort of boost you can get by shaking the Wiimote. It propels Pac-Man, it gives Pac-Man a boost of speed in the direction he's currently moving in, and it cancels out any momentum he had going in a previous direction. And in addition to that, there's also a brake mechanic that you'll be seeing me use quite often, where you can press B or Z to stop Pac-Man in place, and that stops his momentum entirely. So, optimal movement in this game, if you want to boost all over the place, you can boost in one direction, brake for like 1 frame, and then you can boost in an entirely different direction. And basically, if you ever watch a TAS of this game, which TASes of this game are amazing, then the TAS basically just does that all over the place. So here I'm trying to utilize that here. Unfortunately, it's very hard to do that movement like that everywhere because of the amount of tight spaces there are in the game, and humans do not have that kind of reaction time. So, you've probably noticed that there's a couple NG Plus rules that have been applied to this run. Namely, I've already beaten the entire game, and I have all 7 bars of health in the lower right-hand corner, which you can get from collecting hidden pizzas throughout some of the levels. None of the levels change before or after you beat the game, so it's kind of a... And since this game, by default, autosaves, you don't really want to have to wipe your memory after every single attempt, so it's allowed to just have everything already completed ahead of time. So that's kind of an NG Plus standard for this game. So here's another technique you can use for you can use a braking for. As you can see, I'm using it every time I break those boxes, and that just sort of keeps Pac-Man from getting massive recoil and flying all over the place, because we don't want that. In this level, we're going to see the first of Pac-Man's power-ups. This is Night Pac, and it makes Pac-Man heavier, so he doesn't get a whole lot of height from like slow boosts and stuff, and he's also a lot slower in general, but he can break those metal boxes, which a normal Pac can't do, and he can also you can break straight through wooden boxes, and he can also go underwater, and there's a few instances in the game where that's required. So there we go. So now we have 1 level left in World 1 here. So, in this level, you're supposed to be introduced to Light Pac, which is a power-up that basically makes Pac-Man's physics really broken. He lasts a lot longer in midair and gets more height from, like, slope boost, because you can see there, if you do a boost off of a slope like that and go become airborne, you can gain a lot of height, and that will be used for a lot of skips and stuff later in the run. Light Pac makes that extremely broken, but he moves a little bit slower than normal Pac does, and by skipping him, I'm actually able to make this faster platform cycle that saves about 8 seconds. That's it for World 1. So now we're going to go into World 2, and right off the bat we have the first major sequence break of the run. So I'm going to be basically skipping from the beginning of the level to the end, which by using a slope boost, and then I'm actually going to be doing a ledge grab hop to get behind the gate without actually opening it and getting straight to the goal platform. So here I'm going to break this box, and I'm going to use this tiny little slit here to get the ledge grab, and then just hop into the goal platform, and I don't even have to open the gate. That takes about 35 seconds. this level is the first level where there is a possible gate skip, but it's only possible with tasks currently, because it requires I think it's either a frame perfect boost or a near frame perfect boost. So I am going to be unlocking the gate in this level, but you can also use these little bounce pads here to get up to higher sections of the level early. Like that. So you normally need this light pack card you get from opening this gate to cross this section, but if you do a really, really precise slope boost, you can make it up to this final 2 bounce pads with normal pack and skip up to the gold platform without needing to open the gate. But again, it's pretty much tasks only for now. And then there's this level, which is the ultimate T, so even with tasks, it's not possible. The gold platform is actually right behind where you start in this level, but it's impossible to reach it with a slow boost, and it would save like over a minute if it were possible to skip the entire level. So unfortunately, I do have to play through this entire level, which is kind of tricky because there are a lot of dots in this level, and there's a lot of really tight movement you have to do while maintaining really high speed with Pac-Man. It's really hard to control Pac-Man optimally in this game. But that's also, and because of the amount of boosting you can do, the skill ceiling for this game is actually insanely high. So yeah, this level for the most part doesn't have too much going on. We do have the bowl coming up here where I'm going to be getting all the outer pack dots first and then getting the inner pack dots. This bowl is funny because we used to not know how to consistently get out of it without accidentally going the wrong way, but a while back I found a consistent visual cue that works every time, where if you just keep in mind where that power pellet is and then go just a little bit to the right of it, you'll always find your way out. Yeah, pretty long level, but unfortunately not much that can be done about that. And you don't want to fall off here, otherwise you have to go through the entire level again. So now it's time for the first boss fight against Golvis, who's the antagonist of the original Pack and Roll. This game doesn't really have a story mode like the original Pack and Roll does, but we still have to fight this guy, so he's just kind of an evil rock and roll playing ghost dude that's turned everybody in the Pack world into balls. I don't really know the lore of the original game very well, but basically these fights you have to eat 3 power pellets in order to make him vulnerable, and then you can eat him, and you have to do this a total of 3 times. And the power pellets always spawn in the same spots, so I know where they're going to be ahead of time, and I can get to them quickly. In this fight, it's mostly just about making sure Golvis is in the right position for you to eat him without having to go too far out of the way, so you'll sometimes see me wait when I get to the 3rd power pellet so that he catches up and I don't have to spend like 5 seconds trying to find him. And that's it for World 2. So now we're going to World 3, which is Sweet Land. And this is where, this world is really terrible in the other categories, but in any percent I would not consider it the worst world, but there are still a lot of really difficult levels here. So in 3-1, it's imperative that I don't miss a single pack dot in this first section. Otherwise, I'll have to kind of make some adjustments to my route, and it'll be slower. And I also have a somewhat tight cycle I need to make in after the first gate, about 40 seconds into the level, and I have to have good movement while also making sure I don't miss any pack dots in the route. And the ghost movement is RNG, so sometimes they can just get right in your way and prevent you from getting the pack dots you need, and they could just knock you off the platforms and you either lose the cycle. This is a very heavy, reset-heavy stage. And then there's this section of the level where once I get on this car, I'm just going to use ledge grab hops to skip having to use it for these platforms here. And then after this platform, I'm just going to boost off. And then I'm going to use slow boosting to get to these last 2 sets of platforms. And I'll have exactly enough pack dots to get through the gate once this level ends. So now it's on to 3-2. There is a variety of ways you can go about this level. I'm going to go about it just sort of a standard way. So these ghosts are a pain to get past because sometimes they can just be right in your way no matter what, and that slow boost sometimes just doesn't work. So I got kind of unlucky there. So I'm grabbing Night Pack here. You need to collect like at least 1 underwater pack dot in order to get to the next section of the level. So I'm gonna kind of go out of my way here to grab some in the water. And you can actually skip this normal pack card that I'm about to collect before the gate, and you can skip having to eat a ghost in the next section to get Night Pack back, because you need Night Pack to get through a metal box to get to the end of the level. but normal Pac moves so much faster that it's actually worth it to just go ahead and grab it, and then you just eat the ghost while you're in this area. And since this ghost moves on the cycle, he'll be in roughly the same place every single time you get here, so you can kind of route out when to get to him. Alright, that was a really good 3-2. This is a really difficult level. Now, 3-3 is a pretty generous level. This level is pretty much all about cycles. And with the way the movement is and with the way the cycles happen to work out, most of them are actually fairly lenient. TAS obviously skips like 2 or 3 cycles, but humans, again, just don't have the amount of reaction time that would be required in order to do that. So I missed 1 Pac Dot, and for these first 2 sections, that is the 1 Pac Dot I'm allowed to miss. A lot of these routes are fairly tight on Pac Dots. Some of them you will want to grab excess amount of Pac Dots so that you have to do little backtracking in later sections of the level. Such as right here, I barely have to stay on these platforms. Okay, that's bad. I actually didn't want to miss that Pac Dot, so I'm actually going to be missing a cycle here. So as you can see, again, that 1 spare Pac Dot cost me, like, probably 1 entire cycle. So that'll probably be about like 6 to 7 seconds. But it's not too much of a deal since really I'm just doing this 1 cycle behind, so my movement's not going to be affected too much. This is normally one of the easiest levels to play at the same speed every time, but sometimes stuff like that can happen. And now there's 3-4. This is a level where I'm going to be particularly stingy on Pac Dots, because there's a little auto-scroller section at the end of this level where you have to ride this roller coaster, and there's no way to skip it, and you need at least 80 Pac Dots before you get to the end of the roller coaster ride. However, when you die, you preserve all the Pac Dots you have, so I'm actually going to die intentionally once I reach 80 Pac Dots on the roller coaster, and that'll allow me to respawn back in the checkpoint a lot earlier. Right there I detoured into the water to grab that normal Pac card. So I've already missed 1 Pac Dot, 2. So the fewer Pac Dots you miss, the earlier you can die on the auto-scroller. So optimally you don't want to miss any so that you die earlier. And therefore it makes the time save a lot more worth it. So we're coming up on the auto-scroller here. Again, there's no way to skip this. A lot of the gates in this game have invisible walls surrounding them, so you can't just boost past every single gate. There's only specific instances where you're actually able to do big skips in this game, and a lot of gates have their hitboxes that extend out a lot further than you'd expect. So even if there are no invisible walls, sometimes you just can't skip gates. So I missed 3 Pac Dots, so I'm gonna lose a little bit of time from not being able to die as early. I'm just waiting for that number to reach 80, and I'm gonna boost off and die, and I'll respawn back to the checkpoint. Now the game's gonna autosave after I finish the level because I have autosave turned on and my life count changed from when I started this level. And that's something we try to optimize, so you don't really want to die or get 1-ups in this category. And autosaving takes about 4 seconds. That also happens if you update a score or beat an IL time during your run. So this is a World 3 boss. I would argue that this is one of the harder boss stages to do without dying, because you have very little room to move without falling off. And trying to go fast here is really risky, especially on the second phase, but I managed to do that pretty well. And we use Light Hack to just kind of fly around from section to section. And in this third phase, I'm going to be specific with when I time eating each power pellet so that I can keep Bulbous stunned for as long as possible and keep him in a good enough position so that I'm able to eat him a lot quicker. Okay, that was really sloppy, but I didn't die. If you die in a boss fight, you have to restart the entire level, so that can be really frustrating. So now we're moving on to Flaming Fortress. This first level is annoying because these first 2 sections, you can literally just have Pac-Man get bounced around without having too much control over him. And there's a platform cycle I want to make at the end of this level that saves about 3.5 to 4 seconds if you get it, and you basically need to have really good movement in order to get it, but those first 2 sections actually didn't go too badly, so I'm gonna have a really good shot at making it. You also need to collect every Pac Dot in every section of the level here, so this is the only level in the game where it's like that. So I should be able to make the cycle, and I also should be able to stay on it. Sometimes you can make the cycle, but you're so late you're not able to stay on it, and you still lose time. Unfortunately, there's no gate skips in this level either, despite how hard we've tried. And I have to hit that button to make the walls lower so I can get to the goal platform. Alright, so 4-2 is actually the second level where there are gate skips that are possible in tasks, but they involve simply using light pack physics and slow boost physics to get around the last two gates without needing to open them, but you're not really saving any time other than not having to go out of your way as much to collect pack dots because of how linear these levels are. And they're really, really difficult, and I've never been able to pull either of them off, so... they've saved very, very little time again, so you probably won't be seeing them integrated into RTA anytime soon. So yeah, this gate you can skip, and then the final gate of the level you can skip. This is a pretty difficult level anyways, because there's a lot of tight movement you have to do, and it's really easy to take a lot of damage. But I actually happen to do that pretty well. Let's see if I can avoid not having to miss too many pack dots here. Alright, that was a really good 4-2. Alright, so now it's time for 4-3. So I'm bound by a platform cycle at the start of this level, but I can make it a little bit easier to make by boosting across these platforms. TAS obviously can do this section of cycle earlier, but I'm not a TAS, so I unfortunately. So it looked like I just barely missed that cycle. I don't think you could make that. A human could make that in real time. Yeah, this level is pretty straightforward, and it has some of my favorite movement in the run coming up. This section coming up here is pretty interesting. I'm going to do a little boost here, and then have my momentum get recoiled by running into that bounce pad right there. And then once I get around that circle enough, I boost off to that second bounce pad. That's actually an optimization that I had overlooked for a long time, and it saves about 2 seconds, so I always bring it up. And that's it for 4-3. Really good 4-3. Alright, now it's time for 4-4. This is one of the biggest late game run enders of the run. It's basically just a long downward spiraling path, and you might think I should be able to fall from higher sections of the level to lower sections, but the game kills you way before you can do it. Now there are certain levels that you'll see later in the run where if you can stay what the game considers to be in bounds for enough period of time while falling, you can actually skip from higher sections of the level to lower sections in vertically based levels, but that's just not possible in this level. And what makes this level so difficult is the amount of boosting you have to do, and a lot of the angles I have to hold are really precise, especially around these turns. And if you hold the slightest wrong angles, Pac-Man sometimes just goes flying off in a random direction and you die. And dying here is basically a run killer because of how sparse the checkpoints are. Like that last checkpoint I just grabbed is the last checkpoint of the level. And there's still like 25 seconds of the level left. So yeah, not much to say here. You can ride those bounce pads all the way across, or you can do what I did and just go off to the side. And here you can't skip any of these platforms, so you have to kind of switch between holding forward and neutral, or else you'll just die. Alright, this is looking like a deathless 4-4. Nice. That was really good. And now it's time for 4-5. So this level is going to be the one time where you'll see a glitch that was found by Joester98, and then later improved upon by me. So if you boost at the exact same time you're grounded on either a bounce pad or lava, which is just a bounce pad that deals additional damage, then you'll actually enter a boost state. And I'm going to be abusing that a lot in this level, so this is also going to be a level where I need to keep really good track of my health, and this is a level where having those extra bars of health is really useful. So right here you're going to be seeing me use a lot of bounce boosts to skip a bunch of these platforms here. It is motion control for dependent, and as far as I know it's frame perfect, so... yeah. And I'm going to be using a lot of lava boosting here to skip some of these falling towers that you normally just have to climb up. So yeah, I'm just boosting on lava, you know, standard things. Here I'm going to use another bounce boost. And now we're going to do another one around these falling towers. Oh boy. That's not good. Alright, I still made the second fastest cycle by kind of being insane there. And I'm going to do one more set of lava boosts. If I didn't get that boost, I would have probably died. Alright, now time for the World 4 boss. So, there's a lot of RNG mitigation you can do on this fight. Golbus can rotate the platform in a bunch of different ways. On this first phase, you can mitigate it by just slow boosting to these power pellets. It's actually a lot more precise than it looks. And here's a new strat. I'm gonna try slow boosting to this bottom power pellet and getting it early. Like that. And that allows me to get these other 2 power pellets a lot quicker, and then I can eat Golbus. But that's not all the time save you can get from this, because the platform still hasn't fully stabilized. So, I can use this to my advantage to get these last 3 power pellets kind of early. And that's the fight. So that was really good. And now it's time for World 5, which is exclusive to the Wii version and is also the most broken world in the game. In this game anyways. So, in this level, you can actually complete it in under 3 seconds with tasks by just slope boosting directly to the goal platform. But the setup for that, as you can see, the goal platform is just right there. You can slope boost from here straight to the goal platform, but the setup to do it with normal pack is not currently viable for humans, even though it would save a lot of time. So I'm going to be doing a setup with light pack that requires me to go through that first gate. And this is normally a really long level casually, so doing the skip still saves a ton of time. So basically, I'm just going to slope boost here and land on the corner of the goal platform, and I just skipped the second and third gates of the level. But now here are the levels that are vertically based that I can use falling to skip huge sections of. It's very easy to die if you don't do these properly. Sometimes you can die even if it looks like you're above collision. And here's another gate skip I'm going to do, so I'm going to use a really weird ledge here to just get a weird bounce and just bounce up to the goal platform like that. And now we're going to be doing 5-3. This is a level in the game. Good level. Alright, so I really shouldn't be going for this, but I think for the sake of the marathon, I'm just going to try it out. So this level has a gate skip that I'm going to try. It only saves about 10 seconds if you get it, and it's really difficult. And if you die to it, you lose way more time than the skip actually saves. So I'm basically just gonna slope boost behind this gate to these platforms. And I failed it. I was too far to the left. So I'll try it again. This skip is particularly difficult, and it is a very... Oh, okay. I didn't expect that. This skip is basically required for a world record, by the way. And it's at the very end of the run, so... You can see why I was kind of skeptical about attempting it in this run. But again, if you do it optimally, you can save about 10 seconds, so I'll try it again. There we go. So that's what the skip looks like. So there is another skip in this level that's much easier, but since my cycles are off, I have no idea what cycles to expect. Okay, that was an interesting death. That was a pretty ugly stage, but yeah, you can just skip straight to the final bounce pads like that. Alright, now it's time for 5 boss. This has the biggest improvements over any stage in the run. From last time I ran this. So this first phase, there's a lot more boosting. This is actually a really difficult phase to do optimally because it's very easy to fall off and die. So I'm probably gonna try and focus a lot here. And you also have, there's also these tiny little bumps you can see in the center of the gears. Those are actually bumps in the ground that will kind of boost Pac-Man upwards a little bit, and they can either help you or really throw you off. And again, dying in a boss fight means you have to redo the entire fight. Alright, so that's phase 1. This fight works in 2 phases. So on the second phase of the fight, there's going to be Golbus is going to spawn these ghosts with power pellets on them. I'm going to intentionally avoid them until the third phase of the fight, because you can eat these power pellet ghosts as he's spawning in, and if you eat all 3 of them, you can cancel him spawning in and eat him right away. So I have to follow a very specific route here in order to get this to work out. And this saves a huge ton of time. Okay. So now my cycles are going to be slightly off. This is going to be interesting. So yeah, I could eat that ghost right now, but I'm not going to. Alright, time is going to be coming up very soon once the third phase starts. This is going to go by insanely quickly. So, boom, 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 and time. So that was a 23-19, and by my timing, not too bad of a run, aside from all that stuff on 5-4, but again, that just goes to show how difficult the end game of this run can be. So the world record is a 22-22, and it's a pretty solid run. I have an ideal run currently of 21-37. So this game still has a lot of room for improvement, but yeah, I want to, before I go, I want to give a huge shout outs to Ilomavi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He made a lot of the tasks for this game, and they're insane tasks, so I would recommend checking them out immediately after this run. So yeah, so that's it for Pack and Roll Remix. Thank you for having me, and I will throw it on over to the host.